welcome to everyone to being part of our supporting families during the back to school period. And today we're focusing on ensuring signups for the child tax credit and the Affordable Connectivity Program. This event is being held in partnership with Code for America, the Economic Security Project, the National Association of Counties, the National League of Cities, and the American Public Health Services Association. I'm Gene Sperling. I'm a senior advisor to President Biden, and I'm coordinator of the American Rescue Plan. And I can tell you that there has been no higher priority for us and no greater place of partnership than on the implementation of the historic expansion of the child tax credit in the American Rescue Plan. I have to say, as an old man now who was there in 1993 when there was the major expansion of the earned income tax credit under President Clinton, I will say that refundable tax credits to reward work, to fight poverty, to help families have breathing room was not a major national issue. It was often worked on by a handful of people. How the world has changed. The effort for the child tax credit in the American Rescue Plan at fully refundable monthly was part of a national effort. There were no shortages of major senators and members of Congress. We know many of them, like Rosa DeLauro and Senator Bennett and Booker and Brown and Wyden and Neal, and I'm forgetting others I'll remember. But that's the point. There are so many who have led and made this a national issue. And that has been true when it comes to state and local governments. And it has been incredibly true when it's in terms of the advocacy community, the child poverty community. They have worked and led. They have both pushed us and partnered with us in the best sense, with one goal in mind: to ensure that we get the maximum benefit from the American Rescue Plan's historic expansion of the child tax credit. Now, I'm going to address the elephant in the room, of course, which is that at this moment, we do not have this historic expansion continued. But obviously, the fight goes on. And I want us to also remember what those of you who have worked so tirelessly, those of you who are co-sponsoring this call, those of you who are on the weekly child tax credit call with groups and advocacy groups we meet with, what has been shown. We have established without a doubt that that this type of child tax credit works. We have established that it can be done monthly, not only monthly, but that checks can arrive on the same day each month, that almost 9 out of 10 can be direct deposit. We have established that this is reducing reliance on risky debt for families, that it has had a major impact on food insufficiency, that from researchers from UC Irvine to Columbia to Urban Institute, that separate studies show that it has no negative work effect. And we have shown, as President Biden says, that this can be a policy that both reduces child poverty and gives the typical working family breathing room to raise their families with dignity and security in good times and bad. So the fight goes on, but we should remember that in addition to the benefits that families are getting through the American Rescue Plan, that we have made the child tax credit on the same footing for the first time ever in Puerto Rico and the territories. And the things that have been proven are going to be the wind at the back and strength for the continued push to continue to see the child tax credit together with the earned income tax credit as major tools in our tax code for helping families live with dignity, have breathing room, and reduce child poverty in a dramatic way. But I will also say what's been inspiring and important about this effort is that sadly, we, on virtually every anti-poverty program, in virtually every program that goes for hard-pressed families, there is never perfect take-up rate. But with the child tax credit expansion, there was a national commitment to take that on from day one, from literally day one. That's what brought all of us together, was to make sure that while the American Rescue Plan expansion was there, that as many people signed up as possible. And again, this is where there's been enormous effort. We started with having the first ever simplified filing for child tax credit in 20 years. We started with people saying that's good, but not good enough because it's not in Spanish, it's not mobile friendly, which led to the historic partnership that we've had with Code for America, who will be featured in this call. It led to us doing childtaxcredit.gov, which we still utilize at each moment here to have a one-stop shop, a one-stop place where people can go to find out whatever information they need for signups. The IRS sent out 2 million letters to potential families in 19 and 20. Treasury conducted more than 45 navigator training. SSA, Social Security, launched a 5-week marketing campaign. I could go on. We had a major child tax credit action day in June of 2021. We came back with one led by the vice president in 2022. And what I want to say is that each step of the way, this was never the administration asking alone, never. We were always doing this in full partnership with the tremendous amount of organizations out there who've just been enormously dedicated. And we have worked together, and we've worked together on the outreach, and we've learned together. We've learned that text messaging can work in getting people's attention. We've also learned that there's times you need trusted navigators at trusted places. And these are lessons we learn together and work on together. What I want to assure everyone is that over these next weeks, the White House and federal agencies will continue this all of government effort in our final push to make sure that every family who is eligible for the child tax credit receives the full child tax credit. That means those who haven't applied yet and those who got monthly payments for the first half but haven't come back to get their second half. And so we're here today to make it that extra push. Now, I can't tell you the exact date, the exact deadline, but we know last year it was the middle of November. So as we do this back to school push, we have to look for every opportunity we can, whether it's local government, state government, the federal government departments that I've just talked about, the major nonprofits, the anti-poverty groups on the ground. We all need to make our final push to get people to be aware, because we know what a difference this can make. What a difference for a family with 3 children. $10,000 in child tax credit, the difference between eviction or non-eviction, the difference between foreclosure or non-foreclosure, the difference between hunger or being well fed. That is how critical ensuring that every family who's eligible for the child tax credit signs up. So this today is, again, one more effort. And particularly, we have found the partnership with state and local governments is critical. We did a 16-city partnership with cities on ways to get the child tax credit. And this is one of multiple events that we have done with our state and local partners to use all these tools of navigators, of text messaging, of partnering with nonprofits, of using your state and local American Rescue Plan funding to do outreach. All of this is part of a single effort. So we've got 2 months to go, at least, maybe a little more. We've got to make it count. We're, of course, inspired that 40 million families and 65 million children are already signed up, but every family we sign up can make all the difference for their economic security, for their opportunity for their children. We also today did not want to miss the chance to also let people know that there of the opportunities for the Affordable Connectivity Fund, because the president, again, is both focused on doing everything we can for the most hard-pressed families, the children with the least opportunity, but also making sure every family that is struggling to make ends meet or struggling with higher prices, that we're doing everything we can. Child tax credit obviously made a major difference. So can the Affordable Connectivity Fund and what that can do for helping people with ensuring that they have affordable internet coverage while also reducing their family costs. Before I turn it over to my colleague who will discuss this, I did just want to do one, not introduction, but reintroduction. Julie Siegel, could you come on for a second? We've been very fortunate that at Treasury Department, there's been such a commitment to the child tax credit implementation. Mike Schmidt has helped lead that work with many others, including Tom West and others at the department. Michael has now left to run the team at Commerce on the implementation of the CHIP bill. But no worries, when Mike left for paternity leave, the person who stepped in and helped us have that tremendous day of action in February was Julie Siegel, the Deputy Secretary of Treasury, and someone many of you know. And she has now also come back in again to lead the implementation efforts at Treasury on the child tax credit. So we're not going to put Julie on the spot, but I did want to again reintroduce her, critical partner, and the critical partnership we've had between Treasury and the IRS and the White House and all of us. With that, I'd like to now turn over to the Deputy National Economic Advisor, Bharat Ramamurthy. Not just in these 2 years, but I'd say the last 5 or 6 years, there's been probably no one I've worked with on so many issues and worked with so often. He has such a commitment, a passion, intelligence, political savvy, and it's making a difference in so many of the things that have been accomplished by this president. When you see those legislative accomplishments happening, know that Bharat is playing a major role in so many of them. But today we're asking Bharat in this back to school spirit to talk about something that has been a real partnership in this department that has brought together the American Rescue Plan, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and showed the degree our administration can work together to lower prices for families. So Bharat, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Gene. That was a very kind introduction. And thanks everyone for joining today. As my own kids go back to school, this is a very timely and important conversation. So I wanted to share some information about a program that helps folks get access to the internet and reduce the cost of their high-speed internet service that you may not be aware of. It's called the Affordable Connectivity Program. It was created last year as part of the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and the administration has been hard at work setting up the program and making sure that people can take advantage of it. And we could really use your help in getting more and more families signed up for this important program. So we have some slides to go through today, so we can go to the next one. What is this program? So the Affordable Connectivity Program provides eligible households with up to $30 a month off their internet bills, as well as a one-time $100 off any kind of connected device. So how are you an eligible family? There's a few ways. Number one, if your household has an income that is at or below 200% of the federal poverty level, which for context is about $55,000 a year for a family of 4, that's one way you can qualify. The other way you can qualify is if a member of your household is part of an existing government program. So for example, Medicaid, SNAP, SSI, WIC program, reduced price school lunch, a Pell Grant, all of those, participation in any one of those government programs entitles your household to get this benefit. The third way you can qualify is if your household is already eligible for your internet provider's existing low-income internet plan. Next slide. So for some context on that, our analysis shows that somewhere between 30 or 40 million households qualify for this program in one way or another. That's about 30 to 40% of all the households in the United States. And so what we wanted to do after this law was passed was figure out how can we maximize the benefit for families and also make sure that our taxpayer dollars go as far as we can. And so what we did was convene a series of calls with leading internet providers and push them to offer households who qualify for this benefit, offer them a plan that costs $30 a month or less that provides really high quality, high speed internet. And to their credit, these leading internet providers agreed and are offering plans that are $30 a month or less, that are offering very high speed, high quality internet wherever it's available within their network. And as a result, if you do the math, if you're one of these eligible households, you get $30 off of your internet each month. If you apply that to one of these $30 a month plans, that means you get free high speed internet. What we also did at the same time was launch a one-stop shop for all of this called getinternet.gov. And so that's a really important website name to remember. Because if you go to getinternet.gov, what you can do is check your eligibility for this program, and you can sign up for the benefit and make sure that you can also find whether the internet service provider in your area is one of these companies that offers a plan for $30 a month or less. It's also available in Spanish at the website that you can see there, and you can also call to get more information about applying. Don't worry, we will send you all of this information so you don't have to memorize it now. So far, we've gotten well over 10 million households signed up for this program, which is a great start. But that means that there are tens of millions more households that are just leaving $30 a month on the table because they haven't signed up yet. And our goal is to make sure that as many of them sign up for it as they can. Next slide. Okay, quick recap. About 40% of households, like I said, are eligible for this program. Because of the commitments that we have secured from internet service providers. Most of them, something like 80+% of them, live in a place that is served by one of these internet service providers. They can get high-speed internet at no out-of-pocket costs, totally for free. By the way, that means no additional fees, no modem rental fees, no additional charges, and no data caps on the service. Everyone should go to getinternet.gov to check eligibility and to sign up. Next slide. Okay, how can you help? We have some ideas here on the next slide. All right, number one, if you can directly contact any eligible or likely eligible households via text, via mail, via email, all of those can help nudge folks to take advantage of this program. We encourage all of you to direct families to this website, getinternet.gov. That is the one-stop shop which provides folks with information about eligibility and provides information about how to sign up. And we would encourage you to mobilize at schools. You know, the schools are some of our most trusted outreach partners when it comes to getting families connected. And of course, back to school time is a really good opportunity to do outreach with the kids, with the parents, to let them know about this great benefit that will help save them money, and also, by the way, provide and help folks get access to some of the things that the school might be doing online. Next slide. Here are some, as I walked through earlier, there are different ways of qualifying for this program. A few of them are most relevant to families with kids. Number one, anybody who receives free or reduced price lunch, including a child who attends a community eligibility provision school. All of the people in that household automatically get access to this benefit. Anybody in a household that receives a Pell Grant during the current school year is eligible. Anybody in a household who receives SNAP or WIC. And of course, any family that makes under this income threshold, which is 200% of the federal poverty level, qualifies as well. Next slide. Here is a collection of outreach resources. Again, we will provide you with these slides so that you can get all of these hyperlinks and take a look. but we've put together a lot of hopefully useful and handy materials so you don't have to start from scratch in providing folks with information about this. There's an example of a backpack flyer that we can provide directly to students. There are online resources that you can direct people to. And so we would encourage you to take a look at all of this. One thing I want to call out there is the data links. That could be particularly interesting for you to check out. You know, how are people doing in my area? Is my area falling behind some other areas in terms of sign up rates? And is there more that we can be doing to make sure that we are that your area is making sure that folks are taking advantage of this benefit? Next slide. There are some ways that state and local governments can help. And some of these are sort of tried and true methods that have been shown to be effective. Direct outreach, especially texting, has been shown to be most effective. So for example, Massachusetts texted more than 1 million SNAP and TANF beneficiaries about getinternet.gov and said, hey, you automatically qualify for this. And what we saw in the data was that the rate of enrollments from Massachusetts doubled in the 5 days following the text. That represents tens of thousands of households who took advantage of this that weren't before. And we'd also encourage data matching agreements to help simplify the enrollment process. So data matching agreements between state benefits administrators, so for example, Medicaid, and USAC, which is the federal entity that manages the ACP program, can make life very easy, much easier for folks, because instead of having to manually check whether people qualify because they participate in a program like Medicaid, the data matching allows USAC to quickly do that behind the scenes and get people their eligibility paperwork very quickly, which can mean a big difference for folks rather than waiting weeks and weeks to get that process done. So if there's any questions about that, again, these slides have a useful contact information for the person at USAC who is responsible for these agreements. Next slide. That is the end. So to wrap up, we really appreciate your help and partnership on this. Every family that we can get that $30 a month to, that represents a significant cost savings over the course of the year. And what we've seen in the data is that for many families, that $30 a month can be the difference between not having internet at all and having high-speed internet and all of the benefits that brings. So we really encourage folks to help us get this program to as many households as possible. With that, back to you, Gene. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Bharat. We didn't want to take the entire time on every program, but I did want to give a bit of a message that we were asked to deliver from our undersecretary at Ag, Stacy Dean, who so many of you know and have worked with. And it's basically this on the free and reduced price meals, that for a lot of schools and parents, this is the first time in 2 years they need to apply for free or reduced price meals. Many states and school districts are making sure parents know what they need to do to ensure that every child who needs a meal gets one. You can help by making sure that parents in your community understand that things are different this year, and they may need to complete an application to receive free or reduced meals. So on behalf of Undersecretary Dean, I wanted to make that a little bit of public service announcement and say that there are toolkits at fns.usda.gov. Again, fns@usda.gov. White House will send out this link to the USDA back to school toolkit in the follow-up to this event. And just remind that the Biden administration is taking additional steps to strengthen child nutrition, including nearly $2 billion distributed by state agencies to schools across this country to purchase domestically grown foods for their meal programs. The most recent round of funding was announced in June. So that will be our last public service announcement, but an important one that I wanted to use this occasion for. I also said I was forgetting a few of the congressional champions, and there are many, but let me also do a shout out to Congress, the members of Congress, Tories and Del Bene, as among the many leaders who have fought so hard for this child tax credit expansion. I said at the beginning that that when we got the first ever simplified filing up for the child tax credit, even though the child tax credit had existed for over 20 years, that it was a positive step. But as many in the advocacy and anti-poverty and children's community made clear, it was not good enough, because while that was the best option that was available to the government at this time, and that what had been used during the economic impact payment, it wasn't going to be good enough because it did not have Spanish language, did not have mobile, was not mobile friendly. That was an important issue for us to fix, but we were able to provide that option much quicker because there was a special partner out there, Code for America. Code for America worked hand in hand, not just with the administration, but they worked hand in hand with all of the advocacy community to make sure that they could provide that option, that was the place where when we sent people to childtaxcredit.gov, that they could explain why the Code for America site and its simplified filing was the best option. So they stepped up in working with the government. They have stepped up in working with children's groups and anti-poverty groups across the country, hand in hand. They've stepped up again for us this year in ensuring that after the formal filing season was over, that there was a simplified option, that there is a simplified option in Puerto Rico. I just cannot thank them enough, and particularly their leadership. And you're going to hear from some people like David Neufeld, and we work with Gabriel Zucker and so many, but none of this would not have happened without the commitment and devotion and really bold leadership of their CEO, Amanda Renteria, who I just can't thank enough. You've made such a difference. You've been such an impact player, and hopefully has helped pave the way for the type of accessibility and simple language and mobile friendly access and language access that we need to do better at every level of the government. So Amanda, I'm going to turn the floor over for you to speak and then to conduct most of the heart of the rest of this seminar on the outreach strategies that we can use, not in this back to school period and the final 2 months of eligibility for getting child tax credit for this year. So Amanda, I turn to you.
Thank you. And thank you, Gene. I have to say, it's always wonderful to work with Gene. He has so much history and knowledge and a passion for this work. And I really appreciate that. It's also great to hear from Bharat on Internet Assistant and from our good friend Stacy Dean at USDA. It's clear that the world is changing around us, and internet access is absolutely critical, whether we're talking about food assistance or we're talking about internet access. The way things are working is now really being what we're seeing across the country is states really utilizing digital access. And so it really is important as we think about the future and what this means for our kids. So it's great to be here with the White House, the U.S. Department of Treasury, the IRS, now the NEC and the FCC, and all of you on the call, organizations on the front lines to support our kids at this critical time. Like Bharat, I have kids in elementary school and one in a junior high, and there's certainly a new adjustment to get back into the groove of what does school mean again. And what we've seen around the country is that it's been a hard year for many families, dealing with rising prices, the third year of what is a new reality with the pandemic and the mental health and financial health challenges families and our kids are facing today. I want to acknowledge that. But the reason we are here and what gives me hope is that there are programs to ease the burdens, make a difference day to day. And I'm thrilled to be here with all of you to talk about how we can get these resources to families. As mentioned already, there is an affordable connectivity program, which ensures that every American has access to reliable and affordable high-speed internet. This is such a critical program to support families in the digital age. And for those of us on the front lines, we can actually see the data showing inequities that exist and that have been exacerbated because of the digital divide. The ACP can truly help close that gap and most importantly, open opportunities for families and kids who couldn't afford it in the past, and to communities who didn't even have the infrastructure before. That digital gap is something I believe our generation can and must close. We are excited that we will be leading an ACP effort at our Brigade Congress in mid-October this year. We'll be gathering national volunteers in person in St. Louis and virtually around the country. Those volunteers will run tech sprints to better understand gaps in enrollment, as well as have a handful of enrollment sessions in 3 to 5 Brigade cities. So we are excited to see you there. I hope you join us. But also, we intend to share what we've learned with all of you again. And of course, if we're talking about advancing equity and alleviating poverty, the historic child tax credit has lifted 4 million kids out of poverty and changed, and I'd even say saved lives across the country, particularly during the pandemic, early days of the pandemic. As many of you know, we've been on this journey with the child tax credit for a long time now, and I've spoken to many of you here before. I think it was almost exactly a year ago. We were thrilled to introduce our simplified filing tool, Get CTC. And then in May, I was here with many of you again, excited to reintroduce Get CTC for a second year. What I told you then, what I say again now, is that we know from running Get CTC what a difference it makes. Not only has it shown what is possible in government digital delivery, but we know when we have simple tools that reach folks where they are, it is successful. When we help families fill in information that is already known by government agencies, it's easier to help families through. And when we speak to people in their language and in clear terms, it engenders trust and hope again for families who are struggling. But even the best tools don't get the job done if we don't get in front of people who need to use them. So today I'm here with you again with a simpler message. It is crunch time to get every child in America the benefits they deserve. The expanded child tax credit is still available today, but time is running out. Families across the country have only until about November 15th to easily claim their credit without having to go through onerous process of filling back taxes. And so we have 9 weeks to get every family to file a 2021 tax return and get this done. And we know there are about 4 million children who could miss out on these critical programs. And of course, we just heard from Bharat about the Affordable Connectivity Program, where the estimated about 30 million, more than 30 million households could benefit and are missing out. So we have seen over the last year that when we have your partnership, trusted leaders and organizations, we create a space where families feel respected and welcomed, and where we can get the resources to families who have been left out for too long. I don't want to understate this. When we started this program, we started this idea that if we built a simple tool, people would come. And it is true, people did come. But the reason they came is because we partnered with all of you who are trusted in the community, who could help people through, and who could make people trust a system that is trying to help it. So all of you here on this call are absolutely critical in all of these efforts. Schools, community organizations, state and county benefit agencies, thousands of organizations, including so many of you, and what you have done over the last year has really built the trust we need. While we at Code for America have done our best to make the experience of applying easier and welcoming, you are the folks that bring people, communities to that front door. And I know we'll be walking through some of these proven strategies that we've learned step by step a little later. And at the end of the session, we'll also have a few minutes for everyone here to get started on this outreach work while we're still on this call. So I want to end with just thanking everybody for the incredible work you've already done and everything you will be doing in the coming weeks. I want to thank the White House and Treasury for their collaboration, the IRS, whose incredible efforts have made all this work possible, our friends at IRS Spec that oversee the VITA program, and VITA partners that helped us develop Get Your Refund. None of this would have been possible without their trust and support long ago. And lastly, a huge thanks to generous philanthropic partners who believed that this group of folks, our collective effort, could really move the needle towards equity and stability for families. So now I'm thrilled to turn it over to our director of our tax benefits program, David Newville, who will go over the key facts of the child tax credit and the things that you need to know over the next 9 weeks. So David, over to you.
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you all for joining us today to engage in outreach on these important programs. We're excited to have you here. Before we get into the official outreach strategies and discussions, we wanted to just take a few minutes to kind of talk about a few points specific to the child tax credit itself. As you've heard over the past year, we've been engaging in outreach around this, and there's a couple common themes and questions that come up. Taxes are inherently a little mysterious at times and kind of confusing, and getting this information can kind of help clear this up when it comes to outreach. And these are common questions that come up that we frequently see. If we move to the first slide, you'll see kind of the first question that comes up is that it's not too late to file. I think most of us know the tax deadline is traditionally around April 15th. This year it was April 18th. So it's easy to think, did I miss it? Can I still file? The answer is, for the folks that we're targeting for this program, it is not too late to file. Folks have until November 15th to file through Get CTC to access the child tax credit and the third stimulus payment. We're encouraging folks to go there and do that. They can access, most of them can access with no penalty because they make a low enough income that they're not required to file a tax return. So they have more time to do it. It's optional if they want to do it, but they certainly should, because we have these huge benefits on the line to access them. So that's a really important point that we want to get out of the way first. Then specifically in the next slide, you'll see when it comes to the child tax credit itself, Jean and Amanda talked a ton about how transformative this benefit is, that most children in this country are eligible for it. We see that there's substantial sums of money on the line, up to $3,600 per child for children 0 to 5, and up to $3,000 for children 6 to 17. But another important thing to remember is it's not only too late to file, but it's also not too late to access the child tax credit. Even though the child tax credit as of yet has not been extended beyond this year, we do know that you can still access the entire amount or the second half if you haven't accessed it yet. And I think that's really important to get out to families who may be hearing and thinking like, oh, the child tax credit is over, I can't access it, I missed it, or it's too late. For folks who filed last year, they received the advance payment. So they received the first half of what they were eligible for. They need to file again this year before November 15th to receive the second half. So we don't want people to miss out on that. And for folks who didn't file and get the advance payments last year, we want them to know that they can get the full amount now if they file before November 15th. Again, that plus the third stimulus payment. So it's a tremendous amount of money. And you'll see on the next slide an example of how it could impact one family. A single parent with 3 young children who may have made no income last year, is an I-10 holder, and all the children have Social Security numbers. If they didn't file last year and they filed this year before November 15th through Get CTC, they could receive over $14,000, which is a transformative amount of money that can go to a lot of good things, as we've heard earlier, and have a huge impact for that family. So there are many families out there that may be that big, may not be that big, that are eligible for these amounts of money. We want to make sure they're able to access them. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see, despite, for folks who do know it's not too late to file, do know that they can get the child tax credit and know the stakes and how much money is on the line, there are still some folks who are not filing because there's some misconceptions and fears around, if they file, will it hurt access to any type of safety net benefits that they currently have? So folks who are on programs, vital programs like SNAP or WIC or TANF or SSI or Medicaid, may be worried if they file, it might hurt their benefits. That is not the case. Filing for the advanced child tax credit will not have any impact on those benefits. And for families with immigrants or have mixed immigration status, that might be another confusing point as well, for people might be uncertain about, number one, whether or not they're eligible to receive these benefits because of their immigration status, or even if they are eligible, if they do claim them, will it impact obviously their child's immigration status? For these folks, if the children have Social Security numbers and the parent has an I-10, they are eligible and they can receive these benefits, and they should file, and it will have no negative impact on immigration status, which is something we know is a great source of fear for many people. We want to make it clear to folks that they should claim it and won't impact that at all. So on the next slide, you'll see, we'll pull up a little bit and you'll kind of see the stakes of what we're looking at here. We don't have exact numbers on how many families are left who haven't accessed the full amount of the credit, but we know it could be as many as 4 million children out there, which is a lot. And these families, as I mentioned, they're lower income families. They're families who might be experiencing homelessness, other types of transients that makes it harder for them to claim these credits. They may have new babies that were born in the last couple of years that are not already in the tax system and easy to access and register and get them these credits. They may be immigrants, as I mentioned, or they may be non-English speakers who are having language barriers accessing these important benefits. And overall, they're disproportionately people of color. There's a huge racial equity implication involved in reaching these folks, and people who are kind of not currently accessing this credit, which makes it all the more important in our outreach to make sure that folks receive this. And then you'll see on the next slide, These are the folks that we at Code for America, partnering with the White House and the Treasury Department, created Get CTC, this simplified filing tool to reach. And again, like I said, you can get up to the full child tax credit and the third stimulus payment through this process. And it's available to most low-income folks who are, don't have a filing requirement or below that level. It's available in English and Spanish. It works on a mobile phone and it's user-friendly. As we know, many low-income people can only access the internet on their phone typically, so it's easy to do there as well. And our research shows that most people are able to get through the process in about 15 minutes and don't even need assistance to successfully file, which is huge. If they do need assistance, we have chat support there. We have tax-trained folks there that are available to ask questions if they have them. And for people who want to do more than simplified filing and who feel comfortable doing full filing and have all the right paperwork and documents, we can also we give them the option to move over to Get Your Refund, which is our other free VITA certified program that allows them to do full tax filing, which they can do there as well. On the next slide, you'll kind of see, the mention of full filing, simplified filing versus full filing. We are huge advocates of simplified filing because we know it works. Like I said, it takes 15 minutes. It's very easy. It's simple. People get through it. It's not intimidating. It's user-friendly. And a lot of folks, over 100,000 folks have been able to successfully get through it. Now, you may say full tax filing, can you get more benefits? In some cases, yes, people can get more money through full tax filing if they go that route, but it is a much more complicated process that is not for everyone, especially folks who may be outside the tax system, not familiar with it and intimidated by it. You can see here, if you do simplified filing, it's pretty straightforward. If you do full tax filing, you have to also have all the income documents that might be relevant to do this. You have to report and classify all this income data. And it can take substantially longer than simplified filing. It can take hours in a good case scenario and weeks in a bad case scenario. So, we've done a lot of research on this as we've made simplified filing available over the last year. And we found 3 to 10 times more low-income families complete simplified filing. And when you give them a choice, 10 times more likely low-income families are going to select simplified filing to get through the process. We do offer the option of simplified and full to everybody who goes through the tool. So if somebody feels comfortable with it, we tell them what's required, what the process is going to look like, prepare them for that. So people who do want a full file can do it, but we want to make sure that, regardless, everybody files some type of tax return, whether it's simplified or full, to make sure they can access all their benefits this year. So if we go to the next slide, we're going to hear a client story now, and we're going to play a recording from 2 of our clients from Get CTC. The first used Get CTC to claim her 2 children, ages 3 and 5 years old, in Ohio, and she received $11,400 in refunds, one of those huge refunds that we talked about earlier, which she is using for household expenses and clothing, other important items. And the second client used Get CTC to claim her 2 children, 18 and 8, in Maryland. And this recording, my colleague will play this recording now so we can hear in their own words how this experience affected them. Thank you.
Just because I didn't make enough, taxable income, but when it popped up, I decided to try it, and it was bigger than I thought it was. So that was a plus for me. The instructions were easy, and if you made a mistake, that you could go back and edit it, which was very good. It was very good. It's a real feature to have, to be able to go back and check your mistakes. Because the simplest thing, certainly filling in information, one little slip up, if you can miss a number, that feature was good. So I could go back and edit when I made a mistake. I just think that the child tax credit is very good. It's great, very beneficial. I mean, not just for single parents because it's early, but for anybody that needs some extra money to take care of bills or even get food, with the way the economy and food is going up like crazy. It's like extremely helpful. Like for me, being a single mom with kids and teenagers, when they eat, some extra money to feel like, hey, I can get a little bit more extra groceries. It's really nice.
Thank you so much, David. My name is Sarah McKittrick. Good afternoon, and I am the Senior Outreach Manager for tax benefits at Code for America. So now that you know all of the program basics and you've heard a client story, I'm here to talk about, as trusted messengers, how you can take action during this time to really increase access to these programs in your communities. These recommendations are really especially based on what we've learned from child tax credit outreach over the last year, and also our significant work at Code with our partners to connect individuals to benefits. So here are some of our top tips for spreading the word. Next slide. Step one, identify your target audience and how to reach them. So you've learned who's eligible for these programs, but what other information might be helpful to reach them? As Bharat mentioned, there is data available, and we encourage you to use it wherever possible. So for example, for the child tax credit, the IRS provided data of the number of children that could miss out on this money by zip code, which we can use as a guide really on where to focus our efforts. And I've also personally found this data really helpful in advocating for organizations and agencies to do outreach as well. In addition, communicate in ways that work best for your clients. You know your clients or your residents best, obviously. So use the strategies that you know to work and are most accessible for families. Finally, and this is based on our research, send direct messages where possible. We have found by far that these are the most effective. If you can text, you've heard this, texting enables you to reach people where they're at and allows people to respond on their own time. You can also email and do robocalls or other direct messages, mailed notices, etc. And if you don't have the ability to send direct messages, that's okay. There's still many ways that you can engage, and we'll touch on those in a moment. Next slide. Step two, track your efforts. So getting back to the data, I think Bharat mentioned, and tracking your efforts is obviously very important to see what's happening in real time and pivot as needed. So for the Affordable Connectivity Program, weekly enrollment is listed on the FCC's website. They also provide enrollment data by state, zip code, and county that is accessible to the public. And as Bharat mentioned again, for states, you can also enter a data matching agreement. Next slide. For child tax credit outreach, we have a slightly different way of measuring the data. So if you choose to send people to getctc.org, we have the ability to create a unique link or URL just for your organization, your state, or your city, or your district. So for example, our friends in Jersey City are sending folks to getctc.org/Jersey City so that they can track their outcomes. This link enables you to track the total number of returns, as you see here, the amount of money claimed, web page visits, and more over time. And we can also provide you with more than one unique URL. So if you want to send a text versus an email or some other form of communication, you can do that and track your different efforts. All you need to do is go to our website, it's listed here, but we will of course send this out after the presentation. And you can request a link, and once we approve, you will get access to a data dashboard so you can see information. This information is obviously very helpful to see what's working and how households are engaging with your content, and just seeing the impact on the dollar impact, especially on the outreach that you can have. As someone who's done a lot of this work over the last year, you can never really get data like this in outreach in general. So tracking outreach impact can be really hard, as most of you know. So to be able to clearly say, for example, this text helped 50 people get $4,200 each in just 3 days, which is what happened in Connecticut. So thank you to the WIC team. It's really incredible to see. Next slide. Step 3 is utilize available outreach toolkits. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel here. This work has been done for you. Outreach toolkits are available in multiple languages for both of these programs. I think up to 11, 12 languages for some of these toolkits. And these materials use tested messaging to make outreach easy. Some of these are customizable, so you can adapt and include your organization's information if you want to offer additional support. And just wanted to say a huge thank you to all of our partners who have created these materials, and note again that these will be provided after the call. Next slide. Messaging tips. So just quickly, some things that we've learned. Use plain language. We try to keep everything to a 5th grade reading level or less. Be clear and concise. Make sure you identify your agency or who you are in the message so folks know that this is coming from you. Include a direct link to resources, whether that be getinternet.gov or childtaxcredit.org. Stress that these are benefits that belong to your audience, that they are entitled to, and are for them. And of course, send a series of messages. We say at least 2 to 3 times. More is always better. Sometimes people need to see things a few times to really take action. And one thing that we've noted, especially in child tax credit work, is just to really be clear, like David said before, that these funds don't count toward benefits programs or most benefits programs. That can be a barrier for folks. So we just want to clearly really spell it out in our communication. Next slide. Create a timeline. So our challenge to everyone on this call is, and we can do this, I think, is to send 3 messages per program between now and the end of the year. We have mapped this out for you here as a recommended communication plan. And just a reminder, getctc.org does close November 15th. So we'd love if folks can send out messages at least 3 times before that November 15th date. And really just send a message each month if you can through the end of the year. So let's do this. Let's get the word out over the next few weeks. Next slide. Step 5 is doing the outreach. In a moment, you're going to hear from 3 incredible groups that did effective outreach campaigns, and I will hand it over to them shortly. But just wanted to highlight a few things that folks have done that have been really impactful. So you can see here some of school districts that have sent flyers. They've done e-news. They sent a text. So Boston Public Schools, for example, sent a text to 48,000 students or families, and 17% of those actually clicked through to a website, and a local tax site received hundreds of phone calls for assistance. So we know that that text really worked and impacted families. Some school districts have trained their family liaisons. And there's a lot of cities and counties who've also integrated their messaging across programs to meet people where they're at. So in Boston and Maryland and Virginia, they've trained the trainer models. They've integrated asks about these programs during intake sections and communicated information in letters about other programs, just to make sure that folks get this information. Next slide. Another good example of direct messaging at the county level is in LA County. The Department of Public Social Services sent a text out about the child tax credit to about 1.2 million SNAP, Medicare, and Cal workers. This is, I think, just 3 weeks ago. This text resulted in over 3 million in returns in just a few days. They actually have 2 more texts planned for the fall, so going back to that cadence of messaging. And you can really see the massive spikes in returns in LA County during this time. I just want to call out too the language that they used in their text message. They identified their agency. They made it clear it's really easy to get your money and it doesn't impact other benefits. So this is a really great model. Next slide. And in terms of state outreach, I think we've mentioned that state benefits agency outreach is one of the most effective ways to reach folks. Just wanted to highlight a couple examples for the Affordable Connectivity Program. So the state of Oregon has done incredible outreach for the ACP program. Their Department of Ed published information in their newsletter and engaged in tribal outreach through their Office of Indian Education. And as Brat mentioned, in Massachusetts, they actually texted their entire SNAP and TANF caseload of over 1 million households total about the Affordable Connectivity Program in 6 languages. You can see the simple messaging that they included here with a clear link to click through to. And they did see, again, they doubled weekly enrollment in just 5 days in the program. And the FCC, I believe, had 175% increase in web traffic in the 5 days after the text went out. Next slide. And then we just wanted to show a couple examples of child tax credit outreach at the state level. So the state of Louisiana texted SNAP, TANF, foster caregivers, and WIC clients last month. And really, you can see in the purple here, the massive spikes in returns in the state. This is across the state with that text in purple. They used unique URLs. So we can see that they had about 1.5 million in returns to families. In Oklahoma, the Department of Human Services posted the child tax credit link on their benefits portal, and also their WIC agency and the Department of Health texted their entire caseload, including current and termed clients. And we provided a brief training to their staff as well about the child tax credit. And again, you can see from the purple, the really large spikes in returns over time through that work. And this really just goes to show what a single message from an agency can do and the impact it can have across an entire state. So I want to again call out that engaging with clients and communicating about these programs is so important, especially because like David said earlier, people with babies born in 2020 or 2021 could have missed out on this money. And as you can see in Oklahoma and Louisiana, engaging the WIC offices was really impactful on our data. And also wanted to call out the Department of Ed example from before. So other departments of education across the country have been including information in their communications to superintendents about both of these programs. And so engaging your districts and your state in this work can really help reach more families. Next slide. I just want to do a quick shout out. At Code for America, we're so passionate about engaging the state, local, and counties that we partnered with a number of organizations to create the National Tax Benefits Outreach Campaign. So if you're interested in child tax credit outreach and you are a city, county, or state agency, we would love to partner with you. We have 18 states that have joined the campaign so far, representing multiple agencies. And if you go to this link here, you can find more information about how to join and also see what other states have planned to do or what messages they have sent. Next slide. And finally, in closing, I just wanted to thank our partners on this slide, all of whom have resources to support you, whether you are a community-based organization, state, city, county, or school district. We are grateful for all of your support and partnership in this work. And now I will turn it back to Amanda.
Great. Thank you, Sarah and David, for walking us through what we're doing at Code for America, but also just sharing the overall lessons. We often talk at Code for America that we are trying to show what is possible, not just in tax benefits, but also as we think about the Affordable Connectivity Program. The next speaker, I'm really excited to introduce Alexis Dyson-Roth. She's the Executive Assistant at the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services Offices of Income Maintenance. Alexis has been at this for 15 years. And so it's no wonder that Pennsylvania has done some really incredible work to connect their clients with affordable internet access and the child tax credit. And so we are excited for her to share what they have done and learned throughout this work. And so with that, I will send it over to you, Alexis.
Thank you for that introduction, Amanda. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to speak to you all today about the PADHS efforts for the CTC and the ACP. I represent the Office of Income Maintenance for DHS in Pennsylvania, and we administer the SNAP, TANF, Medicaid, and other life-sustaining benefits to millions of people in our state. We consider the CTC and the ACP to be valuable resources to Pennsylvania's vulnerable individuals and families. DHS sees these credits as an important extension of the work that we already do to disrupt poverty and support families. And this is an incredible amount of money to help support our clients that doesn't impact benefit eligibility. We also knew that over 75,000 children in our state were poised to miss out on the child tax credit. So we eagerly embraced being a trusted messenger with the ability to reach so many of the families who need this money the most. If we could go to the next slide. In 2021, PADHS launched a comprehensive communications effort to publicize the CTC and how families could claim it even if they don't usually file a tax return. For our public-facing communications, you'll see some of those here. We posted banner messages on our online portal as well as our mobile app, added a CTC webpage, several social media posts, and that's what you'll see on the slide here, and also added an upfront message to our customer service center line. Internally, we created an informational guide for all of our frontline staff to help them address client questions and direct families to channels to file. And finally, what Sarah had just described as being such a huge game changer in the promotion of the CTC and ACP was our direct outreach. We included CTC info in a mailing to pandemic emergency assistance recipients, and perhaps the most effective of all of our communications, and you'll see this trend in all of our talks today, is the effort in text messaging. CTC, the text shown, if you'll go to the next slide, here was actually our maiden voyage, our very first text in our text messaging program, and was sent to approximately 4,600 people. You'll see that DHS was able to secure that personalized link that we talked about earlier. and we use this for the text portion of our campaign. Just using that unique URL through the campaign, we can see that about 500 people used it. And based on the average of about $3,800 per eligible household last year, we can estimate that this outreach placed $1.9 million in the hands of families in the Commonwealth. We believe that texting is a key communication tool and are excited to see how much more effective it is this year, since our number of enrollees has increased exponentially. And you'll see that with our outreach to the ACP. If you can go to the next slide. We're planning to implement a similar communications effort promoting CTC this year to try to drive those who have not yet filed for 2021 to do so by November 15th. And we'll also use this for the 2022 season if we're privileged to do so. This year, we plan to explore some new outreach to relevant partners, such as our Office of Child Development and Early Learning, which oversees childcare and early learning programs for Pennsylvania, and other relevant stakeholder groups in the Commonwealth. We'll explore the use of email and the use of unique URLs to getctc.org for those different modes of communications to be able to pinpoint and maximize channels that generate the most action by Pennsylvania families. Next slide, please. And moving on to our ACP outreach, DHS also prioritized increasing awareness of the Affordable Connectivity Program so that Pennsylvania families have the opportunity to secure affordable high-speed internet access. We initiated a campaign for ACP that included several methods of outreach. Educational materials about the ACP were provided to staff so that they could make informed referrals to clients. Informational flyers were made available for staff and clientele, and a text message was sent to roughly 391,000 SNAP and Medicaid recipients advertising the ACP, which was, again, a much larger audience than our first CTC campaign last year, thanks to a mass text opt-in. We'll continue to look for opportunities to promote the ACP in ways that are effective and make sense for our agency, like regular social media posts. A few things to consider in terms of the Pennsylvania communication efforts for these programs. Despite our incredible reach, we did not see an impact on our call center volume. We also didn't see a need for any additional staffing for this. We incorporated this into our normal operations using existing tools and funding. Texting is an extremely valuable communication tool that is useful for a variety of objectives, including regular public assistance work and special initiatives like CTC and ACP outreach. It's an effective way to engage and reach individuals. Although we do include a mandatory opt-out message in all of our texts, we see a very low percentage of individuals that actually opt out. If you don't have texting, there are still other ways that you can get the word out. IVR, banners, flyers, social media, anything can make an impact, and toolkits with samples in many languages are readily available for messaging. If we could go to the next slide. In closing, we as benefit agencies are an incredibly powerful tool to communicate this message to help our clients. This outreach is essential in helping to advance the economic stability of our communities and giving everyone the opportunity to thrive. We hope that other state agencies will also support outreach, as we are some of the most trusted messengers and have the clients who are most likely eligible for an incredible amount of funds. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about our work. And thank you again for this incredible opportunity to share our efforts in Pennsylvania. And with that, I'll send that back to Code for America and Amanda.
Thank you, Alexis. And thank you to everyone in Pennsylvania for this incredible work and how thoughtful you have been in making sure to break down silos. Like agencies, school districts have a high degree of trust with families, and we believe districts are key in spreading the word. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Almi Abeda, Superintendent of Chelsea Public Schools in Massachusetts, to talk about how their district engaged their families in these critical resources. But before I turn it over, as a point of MC privilege, for those who aren't familiar with Dr. Almi's career, she is a powerhouse Latina leader paving the way for how to use data to understand instruction in our schools and on the leading edge of educating all of our kids for this new world we are in. So with that, Dr. Almi Abeda, you are up.
Oh, thank you so much for such a warm introduction. It's nice to be here. We sure are proud of the work that we've done in Chelsea, but I will say we didn't have a choice. During COVID, we were the hardest hit community in Massachusetts. And so we had to figure out a way to reach out to our families quick and effectively. And so again, you're going to hear this common theme throughout the whole day is texting. Texting was the magic thing and sauce for us. And so we found that our families, most families had a phone, and that was the quickest way to communicate. So we continue to use texting and text messages for almost every communication that we send out in Chelsea Public Schools. Next slide, please. And so with the child tax credit, we did a lot of texting, as you can see here. Here are some samples, a lot of community outreach. We collaborated with community partners such as our La Collaborativa. You can see that here, but we sent out text messages. We did phone calls. We had, with the text, we had 1,100 website visits. We had 50 attendees. And again, with our affordable connectivity program, we would send texts out. We have a parent information center that our parents can plug into, and we had trusted family liaisons that our parents also connected to. And so any way we could send the message out to our families in their language, and our families could reach back out to us. And what we found and the information that we heard is that this wasn't as hard as they thought it would be. And we happened to be surprised at how much of a response we received. And so we're just really proud to support any type of work and any type of way that we can help our families in Chelsea. So here are some samples here. If you can turn to the next slide, please. Great. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Code for America. But again, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for all of that and all the work that you're doing on the ground. I am now excited our final speaker is Kate Hansen. And I know a lot of folks have a desire to help, to make things better for others, but very few people go out and actually start an organization that can impact thousands of families in times of most need. And that's really what Kate did. And so she is the founder and executive director for Meals for Families in North Carolina. Meals for Families has been an incredible child tax credit outreach partner this year, and we are excited to hear how they've connected their families to resources as well. And so, Kate, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Amanda. And we're so happy to be here in such fantastic company today. Today, I'm here to share with you the work that we're doing in North Carolina as Refund NC. We are a coalition of partners working to connect families with the child tax credit. And again, this Refund NC is a project of Meals for Families. We are an anti-hunger organization. We are not tax experts, but we know that every extra dollar is a food dollar, and that the child tax credit means thousands of extra dollars for families this year. So I want to share with you today how community networks are helping us connect families with this money. Next slide. We're taking a three-part approach to child tax credit outreach because we know how important it is for families to hear about these programs from multiple voices. So we are connected with state and county partners, but we also know how important it is for families to hear about the child tax credit from voices in our own communities. So those are the partnerships that I want to highlight with you today. I'm going to share 4 points that I hope will help you imagine how your outreach around the child tax credit might look. Next slide. First is just look around at who's already in your network. Our Refund NC network is pretty diverse. It includes pediatricians, a free infant car seat program, farmers markets, and an immigration law firm. These are just some examples of who we work with. And each of these partners serves their communities in unique ways and connects with different families. Next slide. Second, get in touch with the Code for America team and find out what's already happening in your state. In North Carolina, we are able to point to the 1,021 applications that have been accepted just since May this year through getctc.org, and the resulting $2.8 million already headed to North Carolina families as a result. So that's a really good conversation starter. But when we're talking about impressive numbers, it's usually the family-centered numbers that really hit home with our community partners. So the fact that like a family of 4 could connect with more than $12,000 this year by submitting a tax return, even if they have no earned income, those numbers really get attention. Next slide. And third, your reach is wider than you think. We're a small organization, but with the collection of partners that we've connected with so far, it's well within sights that together we're going to reach thousands of North Carolina families before November 15th. Next slide. And finally, as you hear over and over again, you don't have to be a tax expert to do this work. And there are easy outreach toolkits already available in multiple languages to help you get started reaching families right away. Just to give you a sense, some of our community partners have very little capacity to do child tax credit outreach, and maybe they just post flyers, and that's fantastic. Others are connected to families by text or WhatsApp or social media, and as you've heard, those broad messages can have really large impacts. But then we also have some community partners who do have capacity, and they see how important this opportunity is for families. And they are dedicating resources to do hands-on outreach with families. And we can help them get up and running in that work. So whether you're doing direct outreach yourself or like us, you're engaging with partners, there's an outreach mode that can work for you. Next slide. So thank you. I hope you're feeling excited about connecting families with the child tax credit and the ACP. And thank you to the Anti-Hunger Corps for support. And back to you, Amanda.
Thank you, Kate. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the work you are doing in North Carolina. So now that you all have these ideas floating, think of at least 3 groups that you think that would be good outreach partners or you could communicate to directly that are in touch with families. And if you want some help, go to codeforamerica.org/back-to-school for a template email for you to send, whether you're a school district, agency, city, county. All of it can be really drafted for the group that you're looking for. And then templates and all the toolkits are really intended to help for outreach and to make connections to community leaders, to community organizations to spread the word. And then you heard earlier today, you can go to getinternet.gov to learn more about the affordable or connectivity program. And finally, don't forget to follow up. We encourage you to send regular reminders to folks. We know there's a lot going on in people's lives. And so the more you're reaching out and touching folks to say, hey, don't forget this thing is going away, or right now is a time to sign up, it all matters. It matters not only so that they sign up, but to remind these families and really communities around the country that government cares, that we can figure out how to get resources to them. And so with that, I want to send a final thank you to all of our different partners who have helped with toolkits: National League of Cities, National Association of Counties, Coalition on Human Needs, the American Public Human Service Association, Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. And of course, thank you before I pass it on to Jean and the White House, Treasury, IRS, FCC, NEC teams that are out there partnering to try and get resources to people right now on the ground while these programs are either closing or starting up. And so with that, Jean, I will hand it back over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you from Bharat to Amanda. Everyone here has been just what we'd want: granular, specific action that people can take that can work. I will say that when I think back to April of 2021, a lot has been learned. And I think that for many of you, you might feel like, who've been on many of our calls, you may feel like this is the 4th or 5th, which has really stressed the text messaging from trusted messengers. But there's a reason for that. I do not think when we started, we knew the degree that this would work and be effective. But starting with, I think, a University of Michigan study, we've seen that spike go up. We've seen that works where it's a trusted messenger and it reaches a person and you send them directly to a place like getctc.org where they can get the help. I just, stress what Amanda said on following up. I stress that for those who get people to make appointments, who want to fully file, again, too, following up if somebody misses an appointment. But we've learned that this option can be extremely successful. And I think what's been incredibly positive in the whole interaction from the White House to Treasury to all of the groups to Code for America to the state local groups has been this positive feedback loop, because we are in constant contact because everyone's working together. When something works well, I think it's spreading like wildfire. So I would just ask that everyone, following with what Amanda said, take specific action, have a plan between now and November 15th. It is true that people might be able to apply and amend taxes later, but this is our chance to get help for people this year. The $3,000 and $3,600 that is available to all families, regardless of income, is still available, whether you got the monthly and didn't get the second half or never filed. So anything everyone could do, we would just ask. You've seen the speakers here, the very specific granular actions they've taken, how impressive and helpful it's been for groups to be able to use the code URL and be able to test whether different outreach strategies are working. This can make all the difference. So, and yes, I also want to stress that people might be reading it wasn't extended, so they might not realize that they are still eligible to get the full $3,000 per child 6 to 17 or $3,600 under 6 years old. So again, this is our final push. It is a nationwide effort of the type of dedicated people that you've seen on this call. So again, I want to thank everyone and just reiterate whatever any of us can do. And I want to stress that that's how we are at the administration. We are asking every department who's done things to continue with their outreach, their texting, their messages, so that it is an all court press. And please, if people have other ideas of things that can be done in these final 2 months, in this final push, please feel free to let us know at the White House. I want to thank the people who helped put this on my staff, Maya Jakimowicz, but I really want to thank Josh Dixon on the public liaison team, who really did so much of the work to make sure that this event with Code took place. So thank you to Code, thank you to all our partners, thank you for all of you who are listening, paying attention, and mostly for what you've already done and will do in these final 2 months. Thank you so much.